It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today, as I always am. And we've got a special edition of the podcast today. A lot of you know that I started working with the Northwest Arkansas Council, and we've kind of partnered up, and I'm sharing my platform, which is all of you, with their platform, which is everything that the Northwest Arkansas Council does, but specifically in the areas of workforce development, affordable housing, and talent. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about talent acquisition and talent services specifically here in Northwest Arkansas. And I'm sitting with Aron Shelton, who is the director of Finding NWA, and Justin Stewart, who is a talent ambassador with the Northwest Arkansas Council, and also someone with an amazing voice that I'm excited to hear on this podcast. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing?
Good, man.
Doing well.
Good.
Good to be here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to do this. And this is actually going to kick off the first of several episodes that we're going to do on the topic of Northwest Arkansas. Specifically, I am an apologist for Northwest Arkansas. As a fanboy, I talk about Northwest Arkansas all the time and why it's such a great place. But I guess I have to, right? Because Northwest Arkansas is in the name of this podcast. I am Northwest Arkansas.
That's right.
So I don't have a choice. But, I tell people both near and far that this is one of the best places to come, a great place to live, a great place to raise a family, a great place to see artwork, a great place to have great food. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But we're still the best kept secret in the heartland, if you will, right?
Indeed.
Or the upper, lower south, whatever you want to call it. But I'd love for you guys just to quickly introduce yourselves to our audience and tell them a little bit about what you do specifically at the council. And then we're going to kind of dive into some of the talent services that the council offers that I think a lot of our listeners, especially those of you that are business owners, aren't fully aware of. So, Aron, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, Aron, I'm the director of Finding Northwest Arkansas, which is basically an initiative of the Northwest Arkansas Council that's focused on talent attraction and retention. So, I'm one of the few that have been here since the 90s.
So you remember when?
Yeah, I'm definitely a passionate fan of Northwest Arkansas and all it has to offer. And I really, feel honored and privileged to be in this position just to communicate all of the opportunity that exists here and really bring, awareness to the amenities, the quality of life, the cost of living, and the sense of community that you can get here. And all of that is applied and sort of a part of my job responsibility. So I really couldn't be in a better position.
No, absolutely. I love that. And so, Justin, why don't you give your quick superhero origin story?
Well, let's see. It all started. So again, the name's Justin Stewart. I'm the talent ambassador. And so I'm one of those few far in between folks that I grew up here. I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the family and Minnie Justin moved here when I was about 5 years old. Okay. So it's interesting to me and really cool to have seen the area grow and flourish the way that it has, because I remember a time when this community of Northwest Arkansas was very much like Mayberry off the Andy Griffith Show.
Sure.
And it has extrapolated immensely since those days.
Yeah.
Due to several different factors. But I am very appreciative that I'm now in a position to where I can help local residents, talent, not just local, but also folks outside of the region, try to find employment here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, like I said, you guys, specifically, the both of you have a yeoman's task in front of you, because part of it is, how do you reconcile the fact that there are 30 plus people a day relocating to the area and making sure that they're fully aware of everything that they can experience here, right? Because part of the thing, we want people to come, but we want them to stay. That's the operative word. And so it's like, how do we do that, right? I mean, the weather is better here than it is in St. Paul. No shade to St. Paul, but that's just the truth. And so, but I mean, we just want to create that awareness so people understand exactly what Northwest Arkansas has to offer. And so why don't you guys, and in no order, why don't we talk about just again about the breadth of services that the council offers from a talent services perspective, just so that our listeners have an understanding of it. And you can talk specifically in generalities about the council, because I think a lot of people hear NWA Council and they don't really know what it is. But, we're in a day and age where we don't like to show our ignorance, so we won't say anything. We'll just be like, oh, yeah, you know the council. And I'm like, yeah, I know the council, but do you know what they do? Actually, I don't, but I don't want to tell anybody that. So, I mean, I do personally, but I would love for you just to kind of share and give a little guidance as to what the Northwest Arkansas Council is all about.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. The council has been around since the early 90s. It was formed by Sam Walton, Don Tyson, John Tyson, J.B. Hunt, and a few other key business leaders got together and they just said, we really, would like to create an environment that's conducive for business, that's good for the people that live here. And we have all of these cities that are nearby each other. Why don't we create an organization that advocates on behalf of all of those? And so since its inception, the council has really been a convener and connector. It's about connecting stakeholders and leaders, bringing them together to collaborate and to, help this region live into its best version of itself. And so early on, that was really around physical infrastructure. And so, the council was integral in getting X&A in here, getting things like highways widened so people could get to and from work. Also getting utilities, getting water to our houses. And so a lot of that early work of the council was focused on those types of things. And then, beginning in the early 2000s and through to this day, I like to say that the council kind of evolved its mission into helping things related to social infrastructure. So now we talk a lot about workforce development. This is like adult upskilling, the K through 12 pipeline to industry, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. You got entrepreneurship, healthcare transformation, affordable housing. And so, the council's always kind of been in this position to kind of identify these key challenges and bring people together to help figure out how we can best address those challenges. And, finding Northwest Arkansas was another one of those, and it kind of fits into that category of talent attraction and retention.
Yeah. You want to add something to that, Justin?
No, I mean, Aron hit the nail on the head with that. It's an ever evolving spinning wheel of things that the council is doing to just try to really help grow the region, help the region flourish and whatnot.
Yeah. So. Well, and I want people to be clear, though, because it's not like the council's trying to be all things to all people, but the council is what I would call a connector of dots. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the whole idea. It's like, okay, we can't be everything to everybody, but we can tell you where to go for this specific issue, for that specific issue, and we can put you in touch with the right people so that you can make an informed decision about what you want to do, whether it's relocating here, whether it's relocating your business here. I mean, there are all kinds of opportunities that exist here in Northwest Arkansas, but you don't want to just come into it blind. You want some guidance. And honestly, the council really represents that trail guide that will take you and show you all the different, if I could use that term, will show you all the different ways that you can benefit from being in this area. So,
100%. And that kind of, specifically when you talk about finding Northwest Arkansas, it was just to do that digitally. So when we first start getting into this discussion around talent attraction and retention, the council, ended up creating a website that kind of provided a bird's eye overview of the region. So it was meant to originally just to assist recruiters and employers that maybe had, candidates that were thinking about relocating here and needed a resource to check out.
Yeah.
And so that's our origin story. And since then, we've really evolved to really what Justin and I are doing today, which is, really linking up with people and connecting them with the opportunities that exist here.
Exactly. And so kind of the way that works is it's kind of a team effort. In a sense, on one hand, I like to think of it as two different buckets. So Aron kind of focuses on putting the messages out there, but also connecting with partnering companies and partnering organizations who say, hey, we have X, Y, and Z hiring needs. do you have anybody who may be able to fill those positions that we can talk to?
Yep.
I, on the other hand, go out in with the other bucket and say, okay, let me see what kind of talent leads I can scoop up.
Right.
How do I do that? Right. So one of the ways that I utilize a lot is LinkedIn, just connecting with folks through LinkedIn. But also we have our Northwest Arkansas Talent Network that folks who are interested in new opportunities in Northwest Arkansas, they're welcome to go to that website to create an account, very similar to like creating a LinkedIn account or using Indeed.com, so on and so forth. But the neat thing is that they're seeing opportunities that are central to the Northwest Arkansas region specifically.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that hyper-locality is important, right? And so you're able to kind of say that everything that you find is going to be right here in this region.
Exactly.
So is there a geographic marker for what the council covers? Or, I mean, do you go as far to the River Valley or not really?
We don't. I mean,
hit or miss every now and again. It's not in a sense that we go after someone, say, in the River Valley or Central Arkansas, et cetera, et cetera. It's just that they may come upon our website and say, hey, I've been trying to get back to the area because I have family there, or, you know what, I went to college there in my younger years and I loved it and I've always been wanting to get back and just trying to figure out how to do that, and so that's where just those kind of random one-off connections happen. It's like, well, hey, check out our Northwest Arkansas Talent Network website. You'll see a plethora of opportunities in here. But meanwhile, let's stay connected. And maybe before we know it, we can find an opportunity outside of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just on that point, I took your question the other way. The opportunities themselves, the employment opportunities are all based in Washington and Benton County, employers that are based here. But the talent, like Justin said, it almost maps exactly to the makeup of Northwest Arkansas, right? About 60% of people in the region are not from here originally.
Right. Yeah.
40% are from here. If you look inside our talent network, which currently has about 1,000 members, you see that same dynamic. So we do have folks from River Valley. We have people from the West Coast looking for opportunities. We have people from the East Coast. We have people from other countries in there. The common thread that ties them together is they're all signing up to get informed about opportunities with employers that are located
here. Yeah. And, it's funny because I've been doing my research lately in terms of the number of locations that see the largest influx of people inbound to Northwest Arkansas. And that would obviously include, it starts with areas of Northwest Arkansas where people move from one place to the other. Then it branches out to Central. Mm-hmm. And I think Tulsa is number 3. Yeah. And I was surprised to see that Memphis was number 4. In terms of people relocating to the area. And then, of course, you have, but I mean, it would, and then Illinois was in that top 10 list. I just did a list of the top 10 and I was really surprised to find some of that information, which kind of helped me have a better understanding of where people are actually coming from.
Yeah.
So, because I came from Boston when I moved here 8 years ago. And I mean, granted, you've seen a whole lot more than what I have seen. But just in the 8 years that I've been here, this place has changed dramatically. I ride around now and I'm like, that building wasn't here just 3 years ago.
That's right.
Of course, the pandemic provided a little bit of a blur, but between like 2018 and now, it's like night and day. Mm-hmm. Even in the area, you and I, Aron, both live in in basically the same neighborhood, and that area has changed dramatically. So it's hard keeping up with that. But that to me is, change is always good. And I think people need to recognize that this area is, as we like to say, on the come up. I mean, there is just so much happening in this area that, you don't blink because you'll see some changes even in the short period of time, after you get here and get situated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a huge difference. So tell me about the whole Life Works Here campaign, which I'm sure some people heard about. And, I had people from other places that knew I lived in Northwest Arkansas saying, hey, man, I heard your people are giving away money and mountain bikes and all kinds of goodness. And I was like, well, let me, that's when I had to kind of familiarize myself with the whole program. But it's been phenomenal. I would say more than anything, it has created an awareness of what Northwest Arkansas is all about, right? So it's like we look back and say, oh, well, they were giving away so much money and a mountain bike and all this other stuff. But if nothing else, I mean, the whole country was put on notice that, hey,
it was.
This is something that we're doing here.
Internally, we talked like about it as like our Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
You know, in a sense, we got well over 2 billion impressions with that campaign across. We got 66,000 applications from 113 countries. I mean, we really did like hit the radar screen of a lot of people that weren't aware of Northwest Arkansas. And we actually took surveys. So like we had awareness surveys that were put out about Northwest Arkansas prior to that campaign, right? And there was about 30% awareness of where Northwest Arkansas was. It included the cities themselves as well. And then fast forward to today, and that level of awareness is hovering around 70%.
Yeah.
And we like to think that remote incentive program was part of bringing that attention here. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, honestly, I had no idea. And I mean, my only knowledge of this, I had driven through Arkansas on the way to California a couple of times. Didn't really stop. I remember coming across the bridge, coming out of Memphis, and you see the sign. I'm like, oh, I'm in Arkansas. Yep. Then before you know it, I'm somewhere in Oklahoma, you know, taking Route 66, going where I'm going. But yeah, I mean, it was like I didn't really stop. And my only recollection of this place was I was actually a big Nolan Richardson fan.
Yeah.
And so I was a hardcore because I didn't like Duke. And I wanted him to beat Duke, and they did one year, and they didn't the next year. I mean, they, you know. So I mean, but anyway, I mean, I say all that. It was. And I say all that to say that, you know, there are a lot of aspects about this area that make it unique. I mean, from the fact that we have a large land grant institution right in our backyard from where we're recording this at KUAF. There are just all kinds of opportunities that are right here that a lot of people just aren't fully aware of, and they can't appreciate the fact that it's all right here. You know, if you even come here and you decide you want to switch careers or go back to school, you have options that are available to you that you can't find in every place.
Yeah, we've had that happen. So, you know, the remote incentive program was us just putting our hand up and saying, hey, you know, with the onset of the pandemic and stuff, there was this kind of moment in time where everyone's rethinking their relationship with work. And we just want to kind of put our hand in the air and say, hey, remote workers, if you're considering relocating, maybe consider coming to Northwest Arkansas or coming back to Northwest Arkansas. We had applications for people that had lived here before as well. Yeah. And so that was kind of our moment. And the talent network was really just a positive byproduct of that program. Right. So in addition, when you have 66,000 applications, you start getting inquiries and people being like, hey, you know, I don't have a remote position, but I'll tell you what, if there's an opportunity in Northwest Arkansas,
let me know.
And I'll come there that way. And so we were getting a lot of that. And so Justin and I were like, man, we need some system for catching these people that just want to, you know, learn about opportunities in the region.
Yes. Because it's real easy for me to say, like, back in those days, like it was like 30 years ago or something. It was really going on 3 years now. But it's about the time I was brought on board. And I just remember at first I was just having this overwhelming feeling especially after the rollout of the incentive and all of that. It was just like, oh gosh, this is real. Right. And I say it that way because I remember having a discussion with Aron literally probably a few hours before that evening of me looking at my phone. But he was just like, yeah, well, this we're about to release the news, so just be ready. You know, you might get a healthy influx of emails over the next couple of weeks. I was like, okay, cool. You know, and so a few hours later, sitting on the couch, the wife and I, we just put the kiddos to bed. We're doing our daily or evening thing, watching TV, and I just happened to look at the phone to check the time. And, you know, as soon as you hit your phone device nowadays, you have some type of news article that pops up, right?
Yeah.
The first thing that pops up is this CNN article, and I can't remember what the article said verbatim, but it was about LifeWorks here.
Yeah.
I was like, oh gosh, this is legit.
This is legit.
And then it was like the next day, you know,
flooded box, flooded email and all that.
Yeah, so, goodness. Yeah. But early on in those days, it was kind of like, you know, how do we keep track of everyone who's interested? And, you know, it's just spreadsheets they're fun and they're useful when you need them. But after a while, there's no life to them. So that was shortly after that, you know, we kind of came up with the idea of like, okay, how can we really line folks out? How can we add a human aspect to what we're trying to do here. And then that's really where the talent network came into play.
Okay. Yeah, which makes perfect sense. And I would imagine that, because as I'm sitting here processing it in my head, and I'm thinking about all the questions that you probably fielded, you heard a little bit of everything, right? And I also would imagine that you probably saw some patterns that exist in terms of like what are like the most requested industries that people are inquiring about. Hey, do you guys have XYZ here, or do you have this here? I'm curious to know what that is and how you've translated that information for the local business community.
And this is just from what I've seen doing this work, but it really started out with that tech focus.
Mm-hmm.
Your software engineers, your software developers, your data scientists,
Mm-hmm.
list can go on and on from there in the tech field. But the thing and I don't know why it blew my mind, I guess because I'm just so used to Northwest Arkansas and just kind of the different types of businesses that I was used to doing here in Northwest Arkansas, let me put it that way. It blew my mind that after the incentive applications and then especially after the rollout of the talent network, we started to kind of see a shift, a paradigm shift of different industry, like different industry seeking folks. We've got a lot of arts and cultural and creative type folks.
Right.
We're seeing more folks that are looking for human resources opportunities, more project managers, things like that.
How about agriculture?
There's even a little bit of agriculture.
And the only reason why I'm saying that is because of the agriculture program at the University of Arkansas. Which I didn't even realize existed until I got here. And I'm using air quotes now. It's actually a thing, it's well respected throughout the whole farming community across the country. We have attorneys that work for that program that go all over the place. I'm representing farmers and doing all kinds of interesting things. And I've actually been quite impressed. And I got a chance to sit down with the head of the agriculture program, DQ.
Okay.
And he kind of shed some light on, the amount of revenue that comes in specifically from certain crops that are yielded here in Arkansas, which I had no idea of. I was aware of it, but it just kind of created more. And he said that's one of the reasons why you have such an influx of people that want to come here and do business one way or the other, whether it's to take it back to where they are or to just gain more insight within their area of expertise. So, and I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super interesting. We had to, eventually wrap our minds around what jobs are we going to feature here? And we kind of took the angle of the ecosystem approach. And if you end up in the talent network, there's kind of 5 or 6 core ecosystems that you're going to be exposed to. You're going to be exposed to jobs within the public education system.
Yep.
You're going to be exposed to jobs in the higher education system. Obviously, the corporations are there. We see those as a bucket unto themselves. The startups are very important to us because, like you said, it's a little bit tougher to recruit as a startup than it is if you have all the money in the world. So we have the startups there as an ecosystem. Arts and culture became a very important one to us. We partnered with CASH, the Creative Arts Community Exchange.
Yeah, you got that right. I know. I messed it up.
I always mess it up.
I mess it up too. It's the same thing with ASB TDC.
Yeah,
I got that one down pat. So,
But they've been fun because we partnered with them to actually, feature the jobs within the arts and culture ecosystem and local government. Am I missing any of the?
No, you're.
Yeah. And then beyond that, we do have other employers, but the core subset of jobs, there's about 3,000 of them, give or take, each month. Those are going to be kind of what you're going to be exposed to if you're within the network.
Yeah. Again, there's a real value to what you guys are doing, especially for the smaller startups that are here that really have a hard time competing with the Walmarts of the world and the JB Hunts and the Tysons. But, I'm thinking of Charu Thomas and the folks at Ox.
Yeah.
They're doing some amazing stuff. Now, it is very niche. They have a very niche service that they supply, and this is the perfect place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But they still need to attract the kind of talent that they need to grow. And I'm only using them as an example because I know them, and I know that they're constantly out looking for great talent. And they're not having a hard time finding it. But, again, you just have to create a compelling argument for why Northwest Arkansas is where you should come work because of, X, Y, and Z. So, and you guys are helping bridge that story gap with these firms like Ox.
Yeah. And the council itself, is always looking to how we can address this holistically, right?
Yeah.
And so you have our colleague, Joe Rollins, who's really working on all of the apprenticeships, the IT apprenticeships, the upskilling. How can we get folks within the region trained into these positions that like Ox are offering? And at the same time, we're like, oh, all these people are looking at Arkansas. So we what can we do talent attraction wise? And so it's always both and, it's never and or.
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing too to mention, and again, it bears repeating, is that if you end up coming here, you being the listener, you listening to this and these guys from the Northwest Arkansas Council sound interesting to you and you decide to come here, I would venture to say, and I've only been here 8 years, these guys have been here basically a lifetime now, you won't be stuck if you come here and you decide to pivot or try something different, because I see this area, again, I've always said that Northwest Arkansas is very fertile ground for a lot of opportunities that exist. And, if you end up pivoting, which sometimes people do, a lot of times you hear people say, well, I only want to pivot in a big pond, right? If a place where I have a lot of opportunities in case this doesn't work out, I got to have a fallback. Well, I believe that Northwest Arkansas has opportunities that exist like that. So you can come here and your first choice may not pan out the way you want it to. You can find something else. It's the reason why I stayed. It's one of the reasons why I stayed, full stop. And I tell people that, well, whoever will listen, I'll tell them that all the time. So, I would say that, so, Justin visits with a lot of these folks one-on-one, and we do these things monthly, this monthly series called the Talent Showcase, where we're kind of just, with the folks that we visit with one-on-one, trying to share a little bit more about them, about their search. And I would say, Justin, some of the more recent ones I've read, I feel like those are like career changer types or kind of pivoting and looking for new opportunities.
It's like I have a couple that, for example, I won't say any names, but one who spent a good deal of time on the data science side, on the engineering side of things, and is now actually looking at kind of going into not necessarily like public administration, but more on the realms of like more of social justice.
Sure.
And I have another who she spent a good deal of her time and still does in serving as a therapist, a licensed counselor, and is actually just looking to shift. She still loves that type of work, but is actually looking to make a shift towards human resources and project management type work.
Wow.
So it's almost like night and day as to what some of these talent leads have done in the past and what they're looking to do now. But if you're looking to make a pivot, it's easy to do here in Northwest Arkansas because we have those opportunities. There's just not, Northwest Arkansas is no longer in the time of, okay, you really only have 3 main places or 4 main places that you have to work or can work.
Yeah.
Opportunities are endless here.
Yeah. I actually, I take it as a badge of honor. Even when because people assume, did you move here for Walmart? And I'm like, no, I'm like one of the few people that did. Like, actually, a lot of people don't move here for Walmart. And that's to me, my thing about Walmart is that everything that we are talking about right now, what Sam Walton created, the genius behind some of the edicts that he put out back in the early 90s about companies having to domicile here and all of that, we are benefiting from that today.
Yes, we are.
Let's be clear. And I'm always, I always tell people, hey, don't bite the hand that feeds you from that perspective. You may not work at Walmart, but I'm sure I could connect the dot for you to show you how you benefit from some of the decisions that were made in the early 90s, which were genius, like things that I know for a fact that Target and other big companies, they don't have those same edicts that they put out to their vendors. And he was so far ahead of the curve as far as that's concerned. Yes. And I tell people all the time, it's like, listen, these are things that are going to continue to benefit us until the cows come home.
Yes. And that brings up a point I want to make sure and share with whoever is listening here is like the talent network is also a really great place for trailing spouses and partners. So say you're a recruiter locally and you don't necessarily need any talent pipeline help. So you're not looking for additional leads or whatnot. If you are recruiting folks and those folks have partners that are looking for opportunity.
Right.
We want to be able to serve those folks. So that's a kind of a key niche that we found ourselves in is like, we can serve those people.
Yeah.
So the talent network is a good place for that.
That's a huge one because, and I've done executive search and recruiting for more than a decade. And one of the first thing that I ever learned whenever I would recruit somebody is I would say, well, what does your spouse or significant other think? Because I need to know, are they down for it? Is it really? And what about your kids? Like I would get into the weeds with it, right? To the point where, and one of the reasons why with my podcast, I've always focused on kind of telling all of the stories that I can tell is because you need as much data and information as you can get before you make a decision to come here. And yes, I'm trying to attract people that look like me. I'm African American, for those that don't know, that look like me to come here. But I want everybody to come here to know what are all the options that are available to you. And I always tell the same story. I remember recruiting a guy to move to Denver. He was going from Dallas. His daughter had Down syndrome, and there was an outstanding program in Denver for children with Down syndrome. And sure enough, where he was being recruited, the company wasn't too far from where this school was. Mm-hmm. That made it one of the easiest choices that I was able to help them connect those dots in the back of the napkin and talk with the wife about, hey, this is an opportunity. And on top of that, your daughter will have this great place to go to for school. They found that out. That sealed the deal. And I think there are a lot of options like that here in Northwest Arkansas for families that are considering moving here. Mm-hmm. They just need to be aware of what those options are so that they can make an informed decision. And it's a little bit easier for them, you know, to call the movers and to start packing up.
Yes.
So, I mean, because trust me, and everybody that's heard before knows I've said it all the time. When I was originally proposed to thinking about Arkansas, I was like, I'm really not interested in moving here. I don't want to go to Arkansas. And he was like, no, well, Northwest Arkansas is a little different than the rest of the state. And again, it's nothing against the rest of the state. No, it's just, it's a very unique space. And, you know, he brought me here in October of 2014. We stayed at the Dixon Street Inn. It was 80 degrees every day. The weather was perfect. It wasn't a game week, so it wasn't super packed. And I ran on the Greenway every morning. And I remember my wife, I said, I don't really know. I'm not sure. And she went around, and of course they wined and dined us at James on the Mill and Bordino's and all these great restaurants that we got to experience. And then my wife went and visited the library. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh my God, before we leave, you got to come check out the library. And I'm thinking, Nicola, it's just a library. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. She was like, no, you got to come see the library. I saw the library. That's what sealed the deal. 3 months later, we were pulling up in our moving truck, moving into Stonebridge, right down at the south part of Fayetteville. Oh, my goodness. And that's how quickly we came here. And honestly, the library was what sold it. And my wife, because she wanted to start homeschooling and she just wanted that. And this was the perfect ground. Yeah. And I'm pointing at the library, which is behind me physically right now. It was the perfect place for us to do that. But that, you know, if you had said, 15, 20 years ago that's why somebody would come to Northwest Arkansas, I don't think that would be the case. But it is now. Mm-hmm. And that's just one example. There are plenty of others.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like to sell folks on is, and part of it is because I like to be outdoors, is that, just a short drive away, we've got the Buffalo National River. I mean, if you like to be in the water, if you like to fish, if you like to float, I mean, it's the place to be, in the summertime. Outdoor opportunities are endless. This still blows my mind, but we've turned into a mountain bike community, right? That's unheard of.
Listen, I have teamed up. We actually had the folks from the Minority Mountain Bike Association on our podcast last year because 2 years ago, the guy that started it brought about 10 or 15 people to Northwest Arkansas to ride. Last year, they brought 100. This year, it's like 250. And they're breaking it up. They're doing a gravel week and they're doing a mountain bike week. Mm. And that's what this place represents, right? And people don't realize, and everybody there were people from LA, people from San Francisco, people from the East Coast. They were like, I had no idea. And a lot of people just don't. They don't know until they come here and see it for themselves.
Right.
Right. And so you've got the stunning natural beauty that exists here. All, like you said, all the different rivers that are right here, all within a 2-hour range of downtown Fayetteville. Yep. You can do so much in this area. And I know we locals take it for granted because it's just always here. I heard you talking about Devil's Den earlier, and it's like, yeah, we could shuttle on down to Devil's Den, where several movies have been shot, and just, and go get a day's in worth of hiking, and you just get out into fresh air and you're 15, 20 minutes from downtown Fayetteville.
Yeah.
And that's, we kind of take it for granted, but it's right there for us.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could quantify it, right? Like, so we have all these jobs listed. It doesn't say, here's your salary package, here's your benefits package, here's your community benefits package.
These are the amenities you get to experience.
Right.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I've been trying to fill in some of that conversation, because here on the podcast, I have found real value in talking about those extra benefits that exist here that people just assume they don't. I'm a big arts person, so Crystal Bridges was a game changer for me. What it offers, what it makes available on a regular basis, and then when you add that to what the AMP now represents for entertainment, I mean, you've got major folks. I mean, I think Dave Matthews has cycled around and been here a few times. Foo Fighters will be here in a couple of months. The Roots are coming to the Momentary, which is one of my most favorite live bands to see. I mean, and again, it's not necessarily, that's just an example of what comes to Northwest Arkansas and what will continue to come here as we continue to grow in stature.
And we talk about, all these things as an attraction factor. But the truth is, it's also a retention factor.
It is,
right?
Yes.
Like, so we're producing and investing in all this talent that's going to the University of Arkansas, that have lived here and have participated in our public education system.
Right.
And like everything that we're discussing also plays a factor in that decision for them to stay here or to leave and then want to come back.
Yeah.
And so we want to leave that taste in everyone's mouth as well.
We always welcome you back.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm glad you brought up the retention piece, right? Because, you get somebody on the hook and you get them here, but the key thing is, how do you keep them here?
Yeah.
How do you keep them engaged? And that's also where you guys come into play as well, is so that if you've helped that organization attract some of that talent, then you're also providing that organization with additional data points, additional information and opportunities that all of their workers can benefit from as they, to keep them here and help them to remain in Northwest Arkansas.
And I think some of that goes back to the discussion we had a little earlier about just when someone's they're like, I'm going to make a pivot. I don't know if I have anything else here in Northwest Arkansas. Wait a minute. Let's rewind. Let's have another discussion. Let's talk about new opportunities that you're now interested in, because I can almost guarantee you that we can find something relative in that wheelhouse that you're searching for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, and I'd certainly, based on the fact that I've had experiences on both sides of things, there's an outstanding options for charter schools here.
Yes.
Outstanding option. The public schools and my kids are personally in the Fayetteville public school system. And I wasn't sure when we first, what we were going to do, if we were going to put them in or not, but we did. And we are so thankful that we've had that opportunity. And I'm telling people that, listen, we're doing things a little differently here, and that there are all kinds of opportunities for you to take advantage of. And I know that's a big area for most people relocating is, well, where am I going to put my kids for school, right? I mean, everybody can't have an IMG Academy on their block, so it doesn't always work that way. But we have a lot of options. I mean, there's a lot of different schools that are available to people right in this area, from private schools in Fayetteville all the way up to Bentonville, and then everywhere in between. So there are all kinds of options for you. Because I was amazed at when I was talking to people. My kids used to go to the Arkansas Arts Academy, which is one of our only arts academies in this area. Right. But there were people that were commuting from Fort Smith to go to that school. Yeah. And from Siloam in West Siloam to go to the school. And I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. So people are coming to this area to partake in all of the different opportunities that exist at every level, both work, for play, and for education. So
yeah, because it's when you're relocating or looking at those opportunities, it's really like a total package, right? It's not just, all right, I found a job that pays well and I like that type of work, I'm going to go do it and move. It's no, you have to take account to, the school systems. Are there things to do? We like to go see movies. We like to go play in the park. We like to ride our bikes. We like to go camping. All those things matter when we're searching for that next opportunity.
Right. Yeah, it really does.
And do those things offer a work-life balance?
That's the key thing. Yeah. If that even exists. So. Right. Everything's changed with remote work now, but that's like a topic for another podcast. So, but needless to say, nowadays you're in a place where there's very few places where within a half a mile ride of your bike, whether it's a mountain bike or a road bike, you can be on some of the best road bike trails or the best mountain bike trails, like world class, right from your home. I mean, and that's real, and you can't find that every place. So, well, listen, as we kind of wind this up, and certainly we will have further conversations in the future to kind of talk about some of the other initiatives that you're doing. What would you want to share with businesses or individuals that are considering coming to Northwest Arkansas? What would you want to tell them specifically? Hey, you should plug into this or connect with this resource because this will help you. I mean, obviously, you have the totality of the Northwest Arkansas Council website, but where would you plug them in specifically? And so I'll put it this way. For an individual, and then I want you to tell me where you would plug in a business with some of the information that we've talked about.
Gosh, we've changed our website how many times now? But for an individual, are we careers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're careersnwa.com.
That's going to be your best entry point, especially if you're looking for those employment opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then what about for businesses that are looking for more information? And the reason why I ask is I've actually interviewed 5 business owners that relocated here, 3 that relocated during the pandemic, Hellion Bicycles. There's a few that have come here and were like, listen, I don't know what it is, something about this area. They were moving from more expensive places, right?
Yeah.
And this just provided a great place to relocate. But what would you say to some of these businesses that are thinking about coming here?
Yeah, definitely, get in touch with us if you have specific talent needs. We're going to want to jump on that immediately. One, we have access to all these members so we can kind of see if there's a fit there. But otherwise, we look to partner with companies that are looking to relocate here if they can source the talent they need. And so we often have those conversations with companies that are looking to move here. But otherwise, we're also a resource just for your marketing and, any sort of resources you may need internally for talent attraction. So it's more, we're to be engaged almost at that point that you've made the decision
that you're going to
land here.
Yeah.
But if you're going to land here, we're going to be here to support you in countless different ways.
Yeah.
But that would be the first thing I would say.
Yeah, because I can almost see if I was moving here with like 10 of my employees, I would probably be really relying on what the council would have to offer by the way of information just to help us make that landing as smooth as possible.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So, well, man, listen, what's if people want to connect with you guys because they've heard both you, Aron, and you, Justin, what's the best way for them to do that? Do you want to give out email addresses or what's the easiest way for people to contact you?
Yeah, I would say, Aron, Aron, at findingnwa.com.
Okay.
And Justin, Justin, at findingnwa.com.
Perfect.
And again, a lot of this work happens via LinkedIn. So you can find both our page there and also you can find Justin and I there as well if you want to link up and connect.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely make sure that everybody does that. And we'll put all that information in there. And we're going to put a lot of the information that was shared on this particular episode in the show notes. So everybody that's listening to this will be able to go to the show notes for this episode to connect with Aron, to connect with Justin, and to also learn more about the talent services at the NWA Council. And I certainly want to put out a plug for one of the episodes that I did previously. It was actually episode, let's see, what episode was this? 148 of the podcast. It was 10,000 Reasons to Consider Moving to Northwest Arkansas. It was kind of a play on the whole thing. And I interviewed an individual named Aron J. Best, who's actually become a friend of mine.
Yeah.
We've become good friends, and I actually turned him on to the library and some other stuff. But he's a really good dude. And I was excited to hear his story. And so anybody that's listening to this conversation that I just had with Aron and Justin, I encourage you to check out episode 148 of the podcast to hear Jay's story about why he came to Northwest Arkansas and how the Life Works Here program helped him to bring his wife and kids and to come here. And he's making a go at it and is glad that he's here in this area. So I just want to personally say thank you for the efforts that both of you have put out to make that program such a success. And we're glad that, 2 billion impressions can't be wrong. And something good is going to continue to come out of that. So thank you both so much for all the work that you guys do. And we appreciate you. we appreciate the Northwest Arkansas Council, and we're so excited to partner with them because all the stuff that we're sharing today and that we share on a regular basis, it's all connected. So I really appreciate it. So thank you both.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. To learn more about us or to read or download the show notes from today's episode, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. You can listen to this podcast and sign up for our free newsletter to keep up with us and all things NWA. Sign up today. You can also subscribe to the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast wherever you listen to it, and please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Remember, our podcast comes out every Monday, rain or shine. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you back here next week for another new episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.